I have put together probably the best concealed carry list when it comes to guns that are super diverse, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. These 7 range from budget guns to more high-end guns and everywhere in between. Not only are we going to look at some of the features that differentiate them, we're going to look at some of the specs as well, which I'll just pop up on the screen. But I'm going to compare and contrast these things, and at the end I'm going to tell you which one, there might actually be 2, that I believe are the best ones out of this list specifically. Now, interestingly enough, when we went, 6 out of the 7 we actually shot out in the rain. I would have shot the other one, but I just didn't have it this day, unfortunately. But what this test did show us is that one of these you may want to reconsider, and it is a popular option. So let's go ahead and get into this. We have the IWI Masada S, the Spectra Comp, the FN Reflex, the M&P Shield, the Canik Mete, the X Macro, and the Equalizer. Now, I have done individual reviews on all of these guns, and some of them I've compared to others on this table. Never have I put all 7 of these in one video. But if I miss anything here, you can always check out those other videos on my channel along with the other 500 something videos that are here. But let's cover some of the basic specs on the Equalizer here. You know, one thing about this gun is it is a carry gun that pretty much anybody can actually use. And so you have front and rear slide serrations that are super aggressive. You have standard white dot sights on this version here, but it is optics ready. Rocking the EPS carry on there. You have a full-size Picatinny rail. You actually do have a grip safety here. All in all, this gun almost has like a full-size grip. So if you're somebody and you don't like really small carry guns, this one has a good amount of weight and it fills up the hand pretty well. Now, the reason I say this could be a good carry gun for anyone is because it's actually internally hammer fired instead of striker fired. So racking the slide on this gun is one of the easiest guns to manipulate. So no matter if you're new or if you have carpal tunnel or arthritis, this is a fantastic gun for pretty much anyone. You got a loaded viewport right there so you can see your brass down in the chamber. Comes with 2 magazines. So you have a 10-round magazine right here. And then you also have the extended 13-round. And you can also get the 15-round. So if you really want a full-size grip, boom, there you go. Next one we'll look at is the Canik Mete. And so you got front and rear slide serrations. This one is optics ready. You actually have a loaded chamber indicator. You got blacked out rear sights right there, and then you have a white dot up front. Ambidextrous slide stop right here, okay? And then your magazine release is reversible. It's going to come with a 12-round magazine, and then also the 15-round right there. So it essentially gives you a full-size grip. Picatinny rail up here as well. And one thing that Canik does really well is sending you a ton of stuff and giving you a great value for your money. They give you a, although it's a cheap one, they give you an inside the waistband holster. They give you a whole cleaning kit. You actually have interchangeable back straps on this one as well. And you got a fairly rough grip texturing. When you compare that to something like the Equalizer, which is fairly tame, this one's a little bit more aggressive. But remember, these smaller guns have quite a bit of recoil, so having that is not necessarily a bad thing. One thing you'll notice about this gun is the bore axis is relatively high compared to some of these others. For instance, if we look at the Shield Plus, you can see this one sits a little bit lower in the hand, which is typically going to lead to a little less muzzle rise in the gun. The way I will show you all the triggers once we get around to the shooting, which you will see some of that throughout here anyways. Let's go to the Shield Plus. This one is basically, you know, I put this thing up against everything because I believe that the Shield Plus is and has been the best carry gun. But again, I'm always looking for the next best carry gun or something that can compete with this. And so it is lacking in a couple of features when we compare it to the Equalizer and the Mete. For example, you don't have a rail right here. So let's say this is your only gun, or you are out and about a lot of times at night, and so you want to have a light or a laser on your gun. There are trigger guard attachments you can get, but it's not as easy to hook up as it is the other two I just showed you. Front and rear slide serrations, these serrations in the front are really low, so if you want to do your press checks, it's a little bit tougher than the two other ones I just showed you. And of course it's striker fired, so it's going to take a little bit more force to get that slide back to the rear. This one's been broken in and shot so much that I really don't have that issue anymore. Slide stop right here, takedown lever, magazine release. And you don't have any back straps on this one, nor the equalizer, but because you have these magazine options, 10, 13, and 15 round, just like the equalizer, they actually take the same mags. A lot of people have issue not being able to get a full-size grip or a full grip on their carry gun. So this one does a good job because you can do that. Standard 3-dot sights, they are metal, viewport right there so you can see your brass down in the chamber. This one has kind of a shiny appearance to it, but all of the other M&Ps do not have that. This was like a very early first production. Actually, what you will expect to see is something like that right there, okay? Again, mine was pre-production, and I got some CLP on this thing, and that stuff stays pretty much anywhere you put it. So now I got a really shiny and slick Shield Plus. I'm gonna have to get that stuff off of there. But when I was shooting it, it didn't look like that. Like I said, we got rained on, so I had to make sure I cleaned all these things so they didn't rust up on us. By the way, side note, I am getting an optic for this so I can give y'all an update on this gun, because it's kind of just been one that I've put away and really haven't done anything with. I definitely want to get an optic on there so I can start carrying this gun again and do an update for y'all. If we look at the FN Reflex, this is the newest gun I have. This one in the Mete, but you have front and rear slide serrations. You can get them optics ready. This version is not, of course. Loaded viewport, so you can see a brass down in the chamber. You actually have a really nice orange dot with a tritium insert in the front, white dots in the rear. Reversible magazine release. This one's going to come with an 11 and a 15 round option as well. So again, you got a really nice setup there to be able to control the recoil of this relatively small gun. Slide stop, takedown latch right there. And they do, FN just always puts like an aggressive grip texturing on the gun. And in this case, that really works for it when you're firing at the range. You got a 1-slot rail right there. So a lot of great features, and the trigger is pretty freaking good in that Reflex. Next one is the Spectra Comp. So we have the integrated comp right there. You have the best set of pistol sights on any gun, in my opinion. You have the X-ray sights, so you got that bright green dot and then a tritium insert. Blacked out rear, and those are tritium as well. Lightning cuts right here. You do have a proprietary rail, but it does have a rail. You have the TIN, gold barrel and trigger. Flat face trigger at that. Magazine release right there. Comes with two 12-round mags. And then you have the LXG laser engraved grip. When it comes to feeling the hand, I've said it before, I've said it a few times before, and I'll say it again, the Spectra Comp and the P365 XL win hands down. If I was just judging how they feel and point, these guns are fantastic and perfect for me personally. That LXG grip though is super aggressive, so it keeps this gun locked in your hand. Front and rear side serrations, and it's customized, of course. You got cutouts up here, it's optics ready, of course, and overall a really sexy and awesome carry gun. The IWI Masada S, front and rear side serrations, interestingly enough, they actually take the same design down to the lower right here, which is kind of cool. You got blacked out tritium sights, and then you have a nice white dot there in the front, so pretty decent contrast. It is optics ready. Magazine release is right here. It's in a good position, man. I think they did probably the best job, because they actually, instead of having it more on the edge of the magazine release, like SIG does, and some of these others, most of these companies do that actually. They actually have a flat part right here. So if you have smaller hands like I do, boom, you can get to that without having to break too much of your grip. You have two 13-round mags, and then again, the trigger on this one is really fantastic. Grip texturing, pretty subtle, but again, you have a longer grip on this gun, so it helps to keep it locked into your hand. And then the big boy of the bunch is the X Macro. Again, we have that integrated comp, X-ray sights, front and rear slide serrations. As opposed to the proprietary rail, we actually have a standard Picatinny rail right there. Takedown latch, slide stop, flat face trigger. Optics ready, I am rocking the Holosun 407K on this one. You have two 17-round mags that are interchangeable with the Spectra Comp and the regular XL for that matter. And this one gives you a full-size grip with a super thin gun. Now let me compare some of the sizes here and some of the weights so you get an idea where they fit there. Now one thing about this, obviously we're using optics on some and others we are not. What I wanted to look at is obviously consistency at the range. See if they work in the rain, because, you know, hardly ever do I get a chance to actually, you know, shoot these things in the rain. And also, what kind of recoil impulse are you going to get? You know, an optic may make a slight difference to those things, but I've shot these guns enough that I have a pretty good idea of how they are. And they are, all of them are very different when it comes to the type of recoil impulse that you will get. And I must admit that some of these, especially one of these, I think would do way better with a dot on it. Like the Reflex, right? To me, this is probably the snappiest gun on the table. All right, FN Reflex. We got a little bit of rain, so we're going to see how they do out here with the weather. Low and to the left. You know, it's almost too light in a way, right? So a little bit more weight to the front. Hell, maybe even adding a little stream light to the front and just adding a little bit more weight right here might help to bring that muzzle down a little bit. When you go to the flattest shooting guns on the table, Spectra Comp and the X Macro, but they have that integrated comp, and you can see that clearly on camera. These guns are super flat shooting. It's really not even fair, man. With this red dot and this weather, it makes it so much easier. Very nice. The equalizer is interesting because you have a good amount of weight here, but because that slide is so light, each and every shot, I feel like you get more of that impulse. You feel that slide with every shot. So this is an interesting gun, but one thing about it is I'm able to get back on target really quickly with the equalizer. This is actually a good test for these guns, dude. It's gonna suck to clean. Can you help me clean? Such a nice shooter, dude. Feels good in the hand. That 15-round mag gives us pretty much a full-size grip. I do feel like you tend to kind of work yourself too much with your trigger finger, so you really got to kind of watch that. But all in all, it's a nice gun, man. So the Canik has the highest bore axis, and interestingly enough, when we shot this in the rain and it started to get just a little bit of water on it, we were having those issues with the striker. And so I did a separate video on this very recently, but essentially it was coming back far enough to kick out a round and pick up a new one and go back into battery, and yet not resetting the striker. So anyways, I got some more work to do on that one. But as far as the way it shoots, it's a decent shooter. Pretty good accuracy as well. I feel like there is a little bit more muzzle rise to this one, and I think that makes sense. And again, this could be something where you simply add a light, give a little bit more weight down here, but one thing you can't change is the bore axis of this gun. It is a little bit higher, and typically these guns will give you a little bit more flip in the muzzle. That slide didn't jump. It jumped a little bit late and went into battery kind of weird. And that was a live round too. Did it again. Live round. It might not be going fully into battery. Yep. So it's like not going fully into battery. And I got a dead trigger. It didn't reset the striker either. And that's a live round. Huh. That's interesting. I haven't seen it do that. And it's not like we're getting like completely soaked. There's some, you know, some water in there, but I have felt this thing jump even under normal dry conditions. And so what I guess is happening is it's not coming back far enough to reset the striker, but it is chambering a new round. So that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. I felt that little bit of slide jump or whatever it is from the beginning, but that's kind of an issue there if you get a little bit of water on it. And that's the same ammo, or we're to the Blazer now?
Blazer.
The Blazer brass, okay. Now the Shield Plus, I don't know if I'm just so used to shooting this thing by now, or if it really just is one of the best all-around balanced shooters. Okay, it's got a really good trigger in it, man. I mean, a fantastic trigger, honestly. Shield Plus. I haven't ran this one actually like this, being wet outside. Haven't cleaned it in a long time, so we'll see. Very nice, dude. Very nice. Let me spray those targets really quick, brother. All right. Shield Plus again. Even for a smaller gun, I feel like this one does a good job of keeping the muzzle down. It's a little snappy, but not bad. And so when we look at the triggers, you got the flat face, you hit the wall, boom, it breaks. Reset, right there. Super predictable. Smith & Wesson has nailed it when it comes to the trigger on this gun. Spectra Comp and the X Macro are essentially the same, so I'll just show you the Spectra Comp here. You got a flat face trigger, you hit the wall, boom. Not the lightest trigger, but it is predictable, not much travel either, and a really nice reset. Do-do-do. Reflex is actually an internally hammer-fired gun. You got a little bit of slop right there in the trigger, but once you hit the wall, boom, right there. Reset, right there. It's got a decent trigger. I really like the trigger in the Reflex. I'm hitting way over to the left now. And I will show you actually the X Macro. Again, same thing. Boom. They feel slightly different, but really not much. Reset. This one actually feels a little bit, feels like it's got a little bit more, oh, they're about the same. They got a really audible reset. Equalizer. Again, a short travel, you hit the wall almost instantly. Breaks. Reset. Right there. It's probably the weakest when it comes to an audible reset. The Mete. You got a little bit of take up. You hit the wall, and then you got a little bit of take up. A little bit more take up. And it breaks. Okay. So way more movement in this trigger, but the reset is really good. Okay. So I don't know if they do that for safety reasons or what, but you definitely have more travel in this trigger. And so I find myself, if I'm, you know, one thing that I've been trying to do is break my habit of shooting off the reset, because when you actually, let's say it fires and I shoot off the reset, I have still that much slop, which isn't a lot, but every trigger is different. But if you shoot off, back off of that wall after that little bit of take up, maybe about right there, it's going to really help to clean up those shots. This one, again, I feel like I overcompensate after a few shots.
You'll have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I had to reset my grip after about 3 or 4 shots.
Yeah. Maybe it'll make it
missing.
Huh?
I started missing.
Okay. And then the Masada. It's got a really cool design on the trigger too. Not that that means much, but flat face. It kind of has that little hook underneath, just like the Spectre Comp does, right? You hit the wall, breaks, reset, right there. They did a really good job on the trigger on that gun. I really need to get an optic on all these guns, really. Group to it. Likes more of a 12 o'clock hold, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to give you a reason the way I designate these guns I do when it comes to the way they carry. Guns like the X Macro, I will keep these outside the waistband. The weight on this gun is really good. The grip length, I have a little bit more trouble making this one disappear than some of the others. But again, if I have it in this contour holster and I have a dark colored shirt on, I can actually make this gun disappear if I need to carry it concealed. But primarily I have it in this contour holster. By the way, if you're not familiar, I'll have a discount for those holsters down below. The equalizer is the same way. The equalizer is a little bit heavier, of course, than the X Macro. And so for that reason, I just find it more comfortable outside the waistband in a contour holster. The lightest one inside the waistband is going to be the Reflex. Unfortunately, Holster hasn't made a holster for this one quite yet, but this would be a super comfortable option inside the waistband. And you'll notice I talk about comfort because if you can find a gun that you shoot really well, that's comfortable to carry, and that's reliable, boom. You found it, right? You found the carry gun you want, and I want good people to carry every single day. That's my goal here. The Masada S is going to be on the heavier side. Now you got to remember when I talk about guns being heavy, specifically inside the waistband, ounces and tenths of inches matter, right? Size matters when it comes to this stuff, specifically for me because my back is wrecked. And so when I start getting closer to 2 pounds, you know, middle of the day, it starts to affect me, and that's why it's important, okay? And you will see if you start carrying every single day that these little things start to add up. Here's the Shield Plus, you know, fully loaded up, 1 pound, 8 ounces, okay? So I still have some room to play with. This is a comfortable, really comfortable gun to carry just like this in a holster profile. 97% of the time, I don't know, 98% of the time, this is what you're going to see me carry because this is, like I said, so comfortable. I shoot it well, and I trust this gun with my life. The Canik, haven't really carried it a lot. It does come with that cheaper inside the waistband holster, but this is a good size gun to carry as well. So some of these I designate for outside the waistband, like the Spectre Comp, which is actually a really good size gun. I mean, it's light on weight and it shoots really well. I carry in this Oath holster. It's got this mod wing, so it helps to draw that grip in. Of course, it's aggressive like the FN Reflex, so a shirt in between your skin and grip is definitely recommended on this gun, but it's also cut for the optic, so once I put one on here, I won't have to worry about that, and it's overall small size. I like a holster that keeps my package small. This package, of course. Time to start weeding some of these guns out. This gun right here is strictly a time thing. I have not spent enough time with it, and I'm not as comfortable with it as I am these other guns. And so that is one of the few reasons I just don't trust myself with it. And when it's compared to these other guns, for me personally, the Reflex is great. I'm just not consistent enough with it to trust carrying it, so I'm going to put this one out. The Canik Mete. Kind of failed us, man, whenever it got some water on it. And so I still need a holster for it. And as of right now, I just don't trust it. So we got to do some more testing. There's some ideas that I've had that y'all have actually ran by me to check out with this thing too. And we got to get this thing running reliably no matter what the conditions are. 99% of the time, it may be dry and everything's fine and it functions right. But even when it's dry outside, I still had some concerning things going on with this. I talk about that in my full review and the update video I did not too long ago if you want to check that out. But this one can't make the cut. Masada S has been one of the best carry guns that I've found this year. I do wish it was a little bit lighter. I think they could have shaved some of the weight off of it. But if you like micro 9s, you just don't like the fact of how small the grips are, this is a great option. It's got a fantastic trigger like we talked about. 13 rounds in the magazine. They did a lot of things really well with this. What I need, an optic and a holster, and actually start carrying this gun, and more time behind the trigger for sure. About the X Macro and the Equalizer. I really like these guns a lot. These are two of the better shooting guns. Obviously, they both of them have optics, but at the end of the day, what SIG did with this X Macro to get 17 rounds in this gun, it's impressive. You get a good optic on this thing, and it's incredible, man. I just typically like a little bit smaller gun, and I like to carry inside the waistband more, which is why I don't carry these guns a whole lot. When I do, if I'm going hunting or fishing or just going out and about for the day, and it's, I don't know, just kind of leisurely, and I just want to carry them, then I will. But typically, I won't carry them. It's, you know, they're more weight, and I have two guns right here that are a little bit less weight, and again, I just like carrying inside the waistband a little bit more. And then there were two. Man, I really like these two guns. You know, they carry really well. They're the perfect size. They're perfect for inside the waistband, and they shoot really well, and I trust them both with my life. I really do, man. And so these two make my rotation more than any other. But I guess the way I'll put it to you is, this is so easy to carry, and I'm such a good shot with it, and I trust myself with it more than any of these carry guns. That's typically what I'll go for. So I would say, here's just my recommendation. This is the one I carry most of the time, for all the reasons I've stated. If you're on a budget, man, Shield Plus is the way to go. That may be a shocker to you, maybe it isn't. You know, if you haven't been to firearms for a long time and you're like, a Smith & Wesson is really the way to go? Yeah, dude, it's just that good, right? You have the Performance Center, that again, I'm working on that update for y'all, get an optic on this thing and run that and spend some time with it like I should. But as of right now, this has been the perfect carry gun. But if budget is not an option and you want the most, not only the most tricked out carry gun straight from the factory, but the perfect feeling gun in the hand, you get yourself a little Hollison, man, 407 or an EPS carry or something like that on this, and you are talking about one awesome setup. And that's where I'm at with it. These two continue to dominate the leaderboards for my personal favorite concealed carry guns. If you like this video, maybe you'll like one of the ones that I've done here in the past, or one of the 500 videos that I've done on this channel. If you like what I do, consider subscribing and join the channel. See you on the next one, and as always, hold 'em down.